Hey guys, it's Murs. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. The heat wave in Berlin is now finally over, I think, for good. So it is feeling like fall right now. It's really cool and it's windy and there's some rain and it's just the perfect atmosphere for candles and for talking about this book. First, I want to say thank you for everyone for voting on the next author that I will try to get to interview with me. There's going to be another round because there's still names that you guys were submitting, mostly on Instagram, but I'm also going to have a poll here in the community section. So we can vote. I will take the top 5 and go down that list and see who is willing to talk to little old me. I'm such a small channel, I don't really know if most of them will be interested, but it doesn't hurt to reach out. So just an update, I did reach 1,500 subscribers a few days ago, and I just wanted to thank you guys so much. It does mean a lot to me. As you know, I'm unemployed, so I have a lot of time at the moment to really focus on this channel, and that's really kind of all I do at the moment. I have my photos that I do, which I take here in my apartment. I do my own makeup effects, and then I take them into Photoshop and I do digital editing. And I love doing that. It's just so fun. And then also doing these videos, coming up with, you know, interesting things to do for you guys. There's been so much good feedback for the creepy storytelling, which I'm so excited about because I thought, you know, I don't know who's gonna like it, but here it is. So I'm so glad that you guys like that because I really enjoy doing that so much. And all of the other things I do, you know, within my editing for my videos, they do take a lot of time, but I genuinely really love this. And every time I even get one new subscriber, it propels me to do more and to be better at what I do, to just keep going. And because I'm able to take the thing that I love so much, which is like graphic design and, you know, makeup and books and everything else, and kind of just squish them together in this really unusual shape, but it's awesome. So thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me. Someone did ask me if I was gonna do some kind of celebration for 1,500, and I'm not. However, for October, I am gonna do a Halloween special. It'll be different than anything I've ever done before, but I'm hoping that you guys will like it and it'll be interesting and creepy and entertaining and educational too, because that's kind of like what I'm all throwing together. So like I said in my community post, this is the most terrifying horror book I have ever read. So I am really excited to talk with you about this because it really had me in its grips. It's a huge book. It's over 600 pages. And I read it in like 3 days because I was that just mesmerized by everything that was happening. So we're gonna talk about that. And yeah, I guess that's it. Let's talk about it. So our book opens with our main character, Stephanie, who's a young woman who has rented a room in a very strange and unusual building. She's having a nightmare, and she wakes up and she thinks that she's hearing voices in the room. Strange kinds of sounds also. Sounds of plastic rustling and voices coming from the fireplace. Shadows, things like that. And she feels very sure that there's someone at the end of her bed. Stephanie is renting this room in this very dilapidated and dark, dungeonous, disgusting building because she has fallen on hard times. Her father died and her unstable stepmother has kicked her out. She broke up with her boyfriend. She doesn't have full-time work and instead does temp agency work. But it's not really like agency work like in an office. It's more handing out donut pieces at the mall. She's in a pretty dark place for herself. She has very little money, she has no resources, and she really has nobody to help her in any way. So when she came across an ad for a very cheap room, she took it. When she arrives at the building to check out the room and possibly sign for a lease, she meets the landlord. And the landlord is very sketchy, and he has a very unusual way of dressing, which is he wears sort of clothes like a teenager, but they're very expensive, but he's probably in his 40s perhaps. He seems very aloof and not very concerned if she's going to take the room or not, but she ends up taking it based on her own private calendar in her mind, where she thinks, you know, I'll stay here for a month and then, you know, I must save enough money and get the hell out of here. But as time goes by, meaning just mere hours, she realizes that she really did not understand what this situation was going to be like. Things like the landlord has installed lights in all of the hallways, but they're on timers and they turn off after a few seconds. So you have to run through the dark to turn each one on, and then it just turns off behind you. Like, how unsettling. Also, there were supposed to be other women living in this building. It was advertised as a building that would only have female tenants, which was something that really appealed to Stephanie. She felt that that would be a good, safe place. But she hasn't met any of the other tenants. She only hears them, smells them. Very quickly, Stephanie decides that she made a very big mistake. She goes to the sketchy landlord, whose name is Knacker, by the way, and she says, you know, I want my deposit back. It's only been a few days. I don't like it here and I want to leave. And this is the moment when Knacker really shows his true colors. And he starts to gaslight her, deny her her deposit. He tries to put it in the light of,
this is all your fault. You decided to live here, so now your deposit belongs to me because you said you would stay a month. And if you don't stay a month, then I still get to keep your money anyway.
This is infuriating to Stephanie. But then she starts to kind of rationalize with the help of Knacker's gaslighting and difficulty. Maybe it'll just be easier to stay for a little bit longer, and maybe she can get her ex-boyfriend to help her to get out of there. But things go very, very wrong. So, there's so much I want to tell you about this book, but I won't, of course, because I don't want to spoil it for you. What I really enjoyed about this story was that it's not a slow burn, but it tells you the story in a way where it just starts ramping up. So it's a little, I wouldn't say slow, I just mean like it's starting off at a normal pace, and then it's ramping. It just starts ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And by a certain point, I was not exhausted, but I was with her this whole entire journey in such a like a mental and emotional way, because I think, you know, I've had slumlords, I've had really horrible landlords who took my money, who lied to me, who were inappropriate with me, who were just all in all just assholes, you know, preying on, you know, women that they could prey on. And just being in that situation on its own is so, it is a little scary. I think it's more like frustrating. You feel powerless. You don't know what to do. This person has all of the power. You know, they have everything sort of set up in a way where they've been running this scam for so long, they know what to tell you and how to control you. So that part was very intense. And then, you know, there is a supernatural aspect that's happening. It's very intriguing and you want to know, you know, what's going on and what's happening. So you have these like this really intense human interaction of a slumlord who's really trying to control his tenant. in a way that's just disgusting. And then underneath that, when he's not around, you have this supernatural thing that's happening. And it's so good. It's separated into two parts. The first, it's more than half, but the first section is separated into individual days, 1 through 9. And the other half is 3 years later. So we have Stephanie, who's dealing with this 9 days of living in this building, and then 3 years later, after she's not living in the building. And so once the 9 days were over, onto the last page, I think I finally unclenched. like I feel like suddenly my ribs were just able to expand a little bit and breathe, because it was just like I was holding my breath the whole entire time. There is, violence against women in this story, but I didn't find it distasteful. And I am very, very particular about that. I don't like it if it feels like it's just exploitative or something like that, but I felt like it was done really, really well here. I also really like Stephanie's character. She's strong and flawed and very, very relatable. I think everyone can relate to this character, Stephanie. This struggle to find work and just constantly, never having enough money, wondering, what you're gonna do with your future, breaking up with a significant other and feeling like now you have no resources, losing the only family member who cared about you. If you've had a slumlord, if you've ever been gaslit by people. I think the gaslighting in this book was so good. It was infuriating. Being gaslit is just, it's just one of those things where you sort of either have to endure or walk away from, because there's like really no way for you to kind of get any type of leverage over this other person. It's like the whole thing that they're thinking is just this weird game that they're playing with you. So when you're stuck in a position of powerlessness, like you're a tenant or you're a significant other or you're a child or whatever, some type of position to where you're not able to use anything to your advantage to overpower this person in any way. It's done so well here. And there was a point where I just started feeling kind of nauseated because like the exhaustion and just kind of like the mental exertion and the way that you have to hold yourself in while just enduring it. So the first half of the book, where it's like the individual days that she spends in the house, are just terrifying. Like terrifying and mesmerizing and just nauseating and vulgar and gross and just, I don't know how to explain it. It was just like, it was a fucking event. Okay, it just felt like that. It just felt like, one of those things where like miners stuck in a cave for like 10 days or something. It felt like something like that, where it was just so scary and tragic and remote. So remote, because this house too, it has its darkened hallways. It's sort of like strangely cushioned, based on the area that it's located, which is a very low traffic area, low foot area. You don't have a lot of people there. And then we have the 3 years later, which has a different feel to it. It's in a different location, and it uses this opportunity to tell us a lot about some of the questions that we have in the first part of the story. It's so cool. You guys know I love research. So when there is like documents and shit like that, like I'm all over it. The ending for me was really fascinating and interesting. It was really fascinatingly scary. And I think it's scary because it's scary on a emotional level. With Stephanie wearing her skin and knowing who she is and what she's about, and And seeing the world through her eyes in this house is very easy to put on. So it's just like you're completely transformed there. The physicality of the story has a very strong grip on smells and textures, sounds, you know? So you kind of like have those physical reactions, you know, to stuff that's like really smelly or gross or something. You're just like, So there's that physicality. And then the mental part is just the ease of which Adam Nevill is able to describe the supernatural. He is able to describe supernatural stuff in a way that's like he's seen it in real life and he's simply describing what he saw. And he's describing how it affected him physically and emotionally. So it's not one note. It has layers and it has depth. And he's also really good at sort of like prepping you and priming you for, you know, things that are going to come together. I've read 2 of his other books, Last Days and Apartment 16. Apartment 16 and No One Gets Out Alive has a similarity of they're both like buildings that are really dark and there's something living in there that's very dangerous, which was really, really good. I really loved Apartment 16 because I did like he sort of had these like descriptions of the supernatural that sort of hinted at inspirations of Francis Bacon, for instance. So you could totally see these smears of red and these like, you know, partial faces that are disfigured by like the moving of the paint or whatever. And you can just kind of see that being there. And it was so good. And in Last Days, the supernatural thing were kind of like these kind of smeary manifestations. And they would sort of like come through a wall, but as they came through walls, they left this imprint of themselves. It was beautiful. But I'd say that in this book, for me, just for my taste, this was it was just perfect for me. Like everything in here was really, really perfect for me. But everything from the story to the characters to why it's happening, what's happening, and how it's being shown, it was gut-wrenching. It really, really was. And even though this was one of the most terrifying books I've ever read, this is a book that I will read again. And I don't really read books that often. Like I don't reread books that often just because, I don't know, I think I always get like really excited about new stuff. So I always want to like read a new book or something. This one is definitely on my list of like, I want to reread it again because not only is it entertaining and scary as hell, I'm sure there's like a few things that maybe I didn't catch on the way through. Adam Nevill has become one of my favorite authors. Last Days was my introduction to him, and Apartment 16 was just another great book. He's really able to tell you a story that is very modern and very creative and told in a way that is clear. Like so crystal clear. Like when I talk about his supernatural stuff, like the way he describes it, it's just really nice. You can just completely see it. And I think that adds to the fear factor. My score for No One Gets Out Alive is 5 stars. And I didn't even have to run that through my book score. It is 100% 5 stars. So that's it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this review of No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Nevill. The next couple of weeks I'm going to be reviewing a bunch of ARC requests that I've gotten, and they all sound really, really good. I only accept ones that I feel like, you know, that I will enjoy. So I hope that you will enjoy them too. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me. I really appreciate it. If you're on Instagram, you can add me at Harpies in the trees. So I hope you take care of yourself, wear a mask, be good to your neighbor, watch out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.